All right, let's go. Welcome to the August 8th community update with product and protocol. So today's agenda, okay. We're gonna start with upcoming events, the Paris recap. Sarah was just in Paris, so we're gonna talk about that. And then we have a few guest speakers today actually, and yes, they're all here, okay. So Ecotoken is gonna be talking about their platform launch. We're gonna be talking about permissionless credit classes again, and Corey's gonna join us with an update on that. And so it's, and then we've got Max, who's going to be talking about tokenomics, staying up super late for us. Thank you very much, Max, all the way from Kazakhstan. And then we're going to do a little community dev spotlight on Cosmwasm on Regen Ledger. So let's get started. The next schedule upcoming, August is another 5-week month. So there's going to be the 5th week where no community events happen. But as usual, next week, Regen Ready News Hour on Thursday. And then the following week, we have the Registry Science and Foundation call on Tuesday. The same day, just an hour earlier, we have the Environmental Stewardship Community Meeting. And then, like I said, week 5 of August, nothing going on. And then the whole thing starts over with the first Thursday of the month, Regen Ready News Hour. And then 4 weeks from today, well, actually 5 weeks from today, there will be the next product and protocol meeting. So if you enjoy this one, make sure you catch us the next one in September. Paris recap. Sarah, this is you.
Great. Hi, y'all. Again, I'm Sarah. Yeah, so I had the great privilege of representing the Regen Network ecosystem at a series of fantastic events in Paris. Including ETHCC, which was sort of the main event experience, Funding the Commons, which was all about sort of commonsing and DAOing and governance and ecological impact. I also went to an event called ReFi Summit, which is all about the role of women and female developers in the blockchain ecosystem at large. Myself and the newly founded organization called the Cosmos Ladies Cartel helped to have a ladies event for women in the cosmos one evening, which was lovely. And Sari and Giancarlo and I went to 2 events for our Cosmos ecosystem. So some of the photos on the right-hand side are of the Cosmos Ladies Cartel's event inside of Nebular. Some of the folks I'm with here are there's Giancarlo, Jake from Juno, and as well as some of our validators and other friends from the ecosystem. And we went to an event called OsmoCon. As folks know, Osmosis is the decentralized exchange where the Regen token is listed. It's our only location where a token is listed. And so we had the privilege of doing 2 demos in the space. Sari, would you want to talk about the demo that we did together?
Yeah, it was so awesome. Regen Network and Osmo teamed up to offset the OsmoCon 2023 event, which I think was really special. And so Sarah started out the demo by just offsetting a carbon credit that she purchased through the Regen marketplace. And then I took over in the second half and showed people how to purchase or acquire NCT through Osmosis and take it over to Regen Network and turn that into a real life carbon credit, which was, I think, very cool. And yeah, it was super awesome. It was, yeah, very fun and engaging.
Yeah, and the other great demo that we had was by Giancarlo, who is one of our former Cosmos SDK engineers, about the groups module. Giancarlo, would you be willing to share with folks a little bit about what you showed in that demo? Because you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, essentially it was the presentation of the group module, what can you do with it, the things that it could be used for, and also was we managed to do a demo with a really cool looking group UI that has been done by the Regen team, which was really, really cool to do. And yeah, the demo was pretty much about the group module and the group UI for Regen Layer.
Fantastic. Well, it was really awesome at OsmoCon. We were one of Aaron from Osmosis let me essentially plan the demo stage on behalf of the Cosmos Ladies Cartel. So I think Giancarlo was actually the only male presenter of like 8 technical demos. It was all women, which was fantastic to see women taking lead and see a bunch of women devs from a bunch of different ecosystems do technical presentations together. It was a really cool vibe. So big shout out to Aaron for just like supporting us and making space for lots of people to show their technology that day. It was really a fantastic event. And we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so the next event that I presented at, where I did a much more robust version of Regen Marketplace demo, and then I did a full-scale walkthrough of a use case that's very dear to me with permissionless credit class. So we're going to be releasing a video on YouTube of the portion where I walk folks through the utilization of the permissionless credit class tools from testnet. As a way of giving folks like a living example of what that process looks like for the governance discussion about adopting that to mainnet. But Nebular Summit is the second largest Cosmos developer event that happens in the year. So it's 2 days of incredible technical presentations and demos and workshops and all kinds of dynamic activities. Unfortunately, during my presentation, the power went out. Or the internet went out. So we had to do my presentation from my laptop, which was less than ideal. But I had the privilege of talking through Cosmos Zero, talking through how our marketplace functions, sharing with folks about our credit production supply line and all of the amazing developmental work that we've experienced through this year, as well as I had the opportunity to, like I was saying, issue credits onto testnet for a landscape project that I had implemented in my career before I came to Team Regen, which is Hilltop Urban Farm, which is my favorite place I ever designed. So this is just very special to share our tools through my own personal lens. And we were surrounded by tons of amazing partners. There is really a lot of respect for our work on the Cosmos SDK. Great appreciation for our CTO, Aaron, who is a legend in his own right, and really a lot of curiosity about what opportunities exist for dApp developers and validators across the Cosmos ecosystem to, hopefully soon have the opportunity to build in the world of Regen alongside of us. So I spent a lot of time talking to people about weird and wonderful product ideas, new tokenomics concepts, picking people's brains. As Sari knows, I was all over the place talking to everybody. And so at first I want to thank Sari, who was in Paris on her own right, and who volunteered to do demos at OsmoCon with me. It was the most fantastic support I could have asked for. And I want to thank Giancarlo, who I accidentally found in Lisbon, not a part of the plan at all. Got them both to come to Paris with me, and then Giancarlo stepped up of his own right and did the groups module UI showcase, which was fantastic to show off some of our technical work to our technical community. So just huge gratitude to everyone that I met over 40 events in 12 days. Met every ReFi protocol known to mankind, partners across all of our different ecosystems, Ripple, Solana, Celo, Polygon, you name it. Anywhere where we could be, we really had fantastic reception from, Cosmos ecosystem and all the other technical ecosystems. So you can really see what it will look like when all of our dApps that are on different blockchains doing climate impact work, when they finally all work together, you can really feel, the breadth of impact that our technical developments are really going to be allow us all to do for climate change together. So it's just really a beautiful experience. So tons of gratitude to the community. And I think with that, maybe, I don't know what's next, but I think that might be the end of my my process. So maybe I'll pass back to you, Sari.
Thank you. And if you guys don't want to wait for us to create the video clip, it's pinned on our page, the Nebular Summit Live, and Sarah's bit starts about an hour and a half in, I think an hour and 28 minutes. So you don't have to wait for us to do that if you want to see her do the cool permissionless credit class demo and talk about things going on in the Regen world. Okay, next, Ecotoken Marketplace launch. This is James. Oh, wait.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, how's it going? Good to see everybody here in the Regen community. So we're launching our platform that we discussed it a a little while ago anyways, but we're launching our platform on Monday. Everything's working. So I figured we could do a quick demo instead of me blabbing on about it. So I put a video in here on how it works. If you could just push play there. So yeah, basically you connect your Phantom wallet, Backpack, and then soon Optimism, MetaMask will be there. But yeah, click on the project you choose to offset. So in this example, I forget which one I picked actually. But those are the available ones. Okay, so the Harvey Manning Park expansion. It'll show the credits available, the price per ton, choose to buy credits. I think it's just a little laggy because the video's on the Google Docs there. But basically the name of the retiree will pop into the NFT. That's the NFT you'll receive. You can just click approve and then it goes through. You'll see on the page there, it shows what's happening in the background. Yeah, I think it's the Google slide that's a little not the best video processing, but yeah, now it's triggering the retirement on Regen, and there you go, it's all done. So now the NFTs in the wallet there, and that metadata will be readable on so there's 9 factors in the metadata there, and that can be readable through different Discord channels, anything like that. If you want to token gate somebody on how much carbon they've reduced, that's all possible. And it links directly to your offset on Atom Scan there to the Regen. And this right now is just the retirement functionality on Solana. And next step is we're working towards the ability to leave the credits unretired and have them tradable on the other exchanges. So yeah, that's available on Monday.
So James, since this is new, I think it's good for us to, congrats. We're psyched, obviously. You know how I feel about this. 2, I think it's valuable for us to just remind folks the context of this, insofar as, this is your own unique marketplace NFT representation, currently just on Solana. It pulls from Regen credits and makes them available in other ecosystems. Is there anything that you can share about the partnership with Solana? You may or may not be allowed to share some information, so that's a leading question. And then the other question is, this new tradable functionality that we're talking about, should we maybe tell folks where we're going to be proposing that concept to be deployed next in another ecosystem?
Yeah, that's definitely okay to share if it's okay with you. The Solana thing, I want to be respectful of them, but they'll be offsetting a bit, I think. So yeah.
So maybe announcement about Solana's offsetting coming soon with James's marketplace technology and Regen credits. So TBD. And then my other leading question to James, which I do think we can share here because it's going to be a public discussion, is that James and I, in discussion with the KlimaDAO community for a while about bringing this functionality over to Polygon for their use, adding the tradability function to the current functionality. And so in about 2 weeks, we are going to be putting a proposal up on KlimaDAO for the acceptance of this technical solution and the acceptance of credits produced on Regen, including the Regen registry. So we're going to be sort of taking this technology that's on Solana and seeing where we can find other ReFi ecosystems to connect to next. So congrats to you, James. Your team is awesome. Big thanks for just coming up with a creative solution to bridging challenges which keep our credits in just Regen. And I'm really excited for all the other ecosystems that we can open your technology up to next, because it helps to get all the credits produced by our real world projects actually out there in the world and out there really meaning where some of these climate impact applications are deployed outside of our immediate technical ecosystem. So
yeah, thanks so much. We're very excited to be working with Regen on all this and trying to make the credits available in as many places as possible. So yeah, do you want me to talk about what we're proposing, I guess, with Klima?
yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah, because it'll go up and there'll be a big discussion. Folks can jump in. We'll make sure the community knows when that discussion started.
Okay, cool. So we're working right now. We built the functionality for a retire later with an NFT, but we found a way that we think we can create a fungible token instead. And I think that that's a better solution. I think it's worth waiting a little bit longer for, but basically we make the tokens fungible in a retire later state in a smart contract or in a special Regen wallet that's purely put aside for the retire later. And then those can be fungible tokens on Polygon for Klima. So yeah, that's what we're working on now. That's the next step if this proposal goes through with Klima to accept Regen credits.
That's very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Does anybody else have any questions for James while we've still got him on this topic?
I do. Hey, James, Dave here from the Low Labs team, longtime Regen community member partner. Hi. Can you maybe outline, because frankly, this is super exciting and I'd love to help listeners or folks who watch the recording understand, like, how does the business work for you? Like, how do you make this pay? Because again, we want to encourage more humans like you to develop and build on Regen's ecosystem. So clearly you see some opportunity. Can you, within reason, just describe what that looks like?
Yeah, well, it depends. It's part of our long-term strategy because we know that the bigger Ecotoken system will be creating a lot of credits on Regen. So it's also kind of pre-planning for developing and opening up our credits to new markets. So yeah, and then we work with Regen to make more credits available as much as possible. So these credits are made available through Regen. Other than the NCT, we just bridged over ourselves because that's a fairly standard process. But yeah, the Regen's been super helpful, and then yeah, just building that out for the overall kind of pre-funding model of the Ecotoken system in the long run. I'm not sure if hope that answered your question.
Kind of, yeah. As long as, I mean, yeah, I guess making sure that we have, like, I guess I'm just, yeah, want to emphasize the business case for other builders for why they should be, or the opportunity to build around Regen, the pipeline of credits that are coming online, and ideally attractive products for, far beyond the Cosmos ecosystem, which I think we're all pretty bullish on. And clearly you're one of the early pioneers in this space. So as much as you can, yeah, share and help a pattern level people think about patterns for business development around Regen, would certainly be welcome.
Yeah, I would think depending on in the future how if you had connections with specific projects, you could always work with them too. Right now, Regen, like I said, Regen's been really helpful in helping us supply credits. But I think there's going to be a ton of demand moving forward for all of these new fully on-chain credits. At least that's our thesis. So I think it's a good marketplace to use as a base, because I don't see a lot of those credits available anywhere else. Biodiversity credits, water credits are something also that's not going to be available anywhere else. So I think that's definitely an area of focus that's not really being touched on that much anywhere else that I've seen.
Cool. Well, good luck. Thanks again for all your work.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, cool. And then really quick before we move on, I'll ask the question in the chat if you have any update on the water credits you're working on.
Yeah, we let's see. we honestly have been a little bit swamped this week with getting ready for launch, but we are, I need to submit the, or make a couple of revisions, moving things from the methodology or from the credit class to the methodology. And then we're in like the final submission stages. And then for our actual project, we've had success separating the fats, oils, and grease from the water, which is great. We're just working on DEP permitting to get that water to disposable levels so that we can disperse that back into like golf courses and back into the system. And yeah, so it's working on the DEP right now. And yeah, actually a good we've had some great meetings with the city of Orlando that's might be able to help with that, because they have a ton of connections at the DEP, and we might actually be putting units on their site so we can take it and put it right back into the main city water source, which would be super exciting. So yeah, it's a process with environmental projects and credit production, but it's coming along.
Very cool. That sounds very exciting. Yeah, let's move on from this so we can get everything covered. But if you have any links that you wanted to drop in the chat, that would be really dope. In addition, but no pressure. Okay,
Sure
let's
thing.
keep going. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, playing the video again. Nope, don't want to do that. Okay, next. Here we go. Okay, governance update. Permissionless credit class discussion. Corey, is this you?
Yeah, I can take this one. So we've had this proposal up for a few weeks now. I can give, yeah, I think it just makes sense to give a little bit of time to see if there's conversation that folks want to have about this. You know, we probably shouldn't let this take up too much time, as there's a lot to go into on the agenda today. But I wanted to surface some of like my own perspective of where things are at. What I'm seeing generally in this proposal is a kind of simultaneous excitement and also like hesitation and some restraint. And so, you know, I'd like to give space to see, you know, if any people want to like articulate specifically some of the concerns that folks have had, if we want to like go through any of that in detail. One of the things that I've been thinking about with regards to this proposal, this was, I think, brought up by Ned and maybe also echoed by some other folks on the registry team, is how much this presents a really kind of like a branding question for the network and for also Regen Registry, which, you know, is kind of, we're going through a process right now of understanding to what extent the registry and the network brand are actually like separate things that we need to consider separately, and how we create a space on the marketplace that that really communicates clearly kind of like what the guarantees are for buyers around that. When people are thinking about like branding concerns or what kind of issues may arise from the introduction of permissionless credit classes, I was trying to phrase in one of my recent responses on Commonwealth two kind of categories of concerns. One is about buyers potentially not really knowing what kind of credits they're purchasing. And so a buyer potentially buying a credit thinking that it's higher quality than it is. And then a second category of concern is a buyer kind of intentionally buying low quality credits and using it to communicate, you know, offsetting and, you know, basically participating in like greenwashing for buying like lower quality or credits that are outside of the scope of a known and reputable registry for the purposes of their own like explicit offsets of emissions. So in thinking about those two things, one of the things that I'm feeling like we could be exploring that we haven't built into our explicit designs yet is potentially making more clear distinction around the use of retirement certificates. And in what context we think that the use of retirement certificates for the marketplace is allowed. We could choose to turn off retirement certificates if that's meant to be like a treatment of something being a legitimate carbon offset, and see that that's only for known and established registries. You know, this was something that I put forward as a potential idea. Haven't heard any response from the community to that, but I'm kind of curious if that kind of direction feels like it is something that we should be engaging with or thinking about more seriously. And also if there are other ideas that folks have for how we could be mitigating some of those risks. So I wanted to kind of foreground that part of the conversation first. I don't know how much time we want to give to this point, but yeah, maybe if there's like one or two comments from the group, we could have some space here, and then, you know, just encourage people to be going back to the forum.
I have one question, Corey. Would disabling retirement, I guess right now, that's also, the retirement prevents you from transferring it. So is there a way to prevent transferring, but without also like turning off the ability to do an official retire? Does that make sense? So
what I was thinking in my head was actually not disabling retirement as a like functionality that someone can do if they're holding a credit, but rather disabling the nice user interfaces that we have that display a fancy retirement certificate and have some, you know what I mean? It is more about this branding and the presentation of what happens when you retire a credit.
Right.
And in my mind, having that be something that's, you know, only accessible to, I think Regen Marketplace kind of needs to make a decision about whether or not it wants to say that any credits that are coming in through the permissionless system all should be able to, you know, have their buyers communicate that something is like a retirement for the purposes of an offset, or if it's or if that's something that like at the marketplace level we want to say is only for known and reputable registries. Sarah, I'm seeing yours saying some stuff in the chat. I don't know if you just want to come off mute and maybe share, because I don't know if I'm following what you're writing.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is like, you know, the limitations on the use of a credit really depends what their credit is. And to me, that decision making seems like it's appropriate to the credit class or the crediting standard level, not necessarily systems wide in a permissionless environment, and may or may not be appropriate as a like policy level decision, even of Regen registry. So I would be just like very interested in seeing what the perspectives on, you know, your viewpoint here is, maybe in the next community call with some of the actual projects that are being developed, and having a robust discussion of what do we mean by offset, you know, how do you approach that in the concept of a biodiversity credit or a water credit, or how do you approach that with the environmental stewardship credits? It feels like there could be a robust discussion about the customization that they want on an asset design level. That maybe, you know, maybe here we're not quite able to unpack at like a detailed enough level. So I'd be excited to have that conversation with them as the crediting standards designers, and really see how they like interact and react to these concepts.
One question I have for the group is, I can see that there's an appetite for this. Like I feel that externally and certainly internally, but I'm wondering why we feel the moment is right now for permissionless credit classes.
I mean, this can come whenever we want it to. I think that the moment is, to me, I feel confident enough in saying that the moment is now to be initiating the conversation. But frankly, I feel like most of the, I've yet to see some person in the forum make clear that they plan on using this. Right? I mean, maybe I'm misreading things, but I feel like there's been questions, there's been good engagement, but like, and I know that we've had conversations about maybe doing some eco crediting contests that would stimulate a little bit more activity. Frankly, an eco-crediting contest is something that we could have done on testnet 3 months ago, or we could do now independent of us actually doing permissionless credit classes on mainnet. It's nice for this to be kind of at least something that people understand is coming, but it's hard for me to feel like we need to be all gas on this without really seeing like who actually is going to be using it. But the space is here. The space is here for people to be talking about it. And I'm hoping that this is like where we start to see people speaking about the ways in which they would want to be using it. Just to be clear again, this is like to what extent the community wants to be engaging in their own standards creations and legitimacy processes outside of the context of Regen Registry.
Yeah,
and if there isn't a lot of an appetite for that, then maybe this isn't something that we need to push super fast.
I appreciate that. I think I have sensed from others, especially those that aren't necessarily able to keep track with every proposal and thread, that there's some confusion about even what like a discussion means. Like, does it mean it's coming now? Like, does it mean that Regen's going to do it? And so to really lean on intense clarity so that it's emphasized again and again, this is just an opening of a discussion, that we don't actually have like a clear timeline for this. I think it's caused some anxiety on the side of like current registry, like project developers. So I fully agree with like giving this space and time for people to engage and time to gauge interest. I think that's great. Just wanting to be really upfront.
Cool.
I'd like to add just a little bit of technical context too, if that's helpful. Like I completely agree, like letting people sit with it for a bit, but just from a technical standpoint, like the reason permissioned credit classes was even a thing was the fact that we just weren't complete with the data model on the EcoCredit module side of things. And it was actually like permissioned and originally so that we could properly work with the projects that would already be on chain and handle the migration appropriately. But when it came down to the data model being updated, like we just never switched permissionless on. So it was designed to be an option, but it was also from a technical standpoint always intended to be Regen Ledger as a permissionless like blockchain for credit class creation and management, and Regen Registry credit classes being a standard that goes through the Regen Registry program as a separate process, but Regen Ledger as a blockchain being like a public permissionless credit class blockchain was always the intention, at least from a technical standpoint. So just like, not that it changes the conversation, but just to provide a little extra context there.
Awesome. Okay. I thank you guys so much. I don't want to cut things off while, they're in the middle of discussion, but we do have some more stuff to go through. So take this to the forum. And if you have any additional thoughts, let us know right there in the Commonwealth discussion. So yes. Okay. Special guest, Max, you're up. If you're still awake. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Pleasure to be here. So yeah, I'm Max. I'm studying now this group about the new tokenomics. There is a link with pretty much the information we have at this moment. I'm sending it to the chat as well. The whole idea is to improve the utility and the value of the token connected with the Ecocredits value and so on. We just started and mostly working on now the funding processes and preparing this executive summary, which would describe our intentions, specific impact metrics, and so on. But I've posted some of that on the forum. So currently we're looking for, first of all, any ideas and needs we should include in the scope of our group. And also, if you would be interested to join it, you can indicate it somehow or reach out to me directly and we can see what we can do together. if you have any questions or directions, please let me know.
I actually have a question. So, I mean, the Tokenomics 2.0 has been called for by the foundation for a very long time, and we did have people put up discussions and topics in Commonwealth about that, but they never quite hit the mark. So I'm just curious how you got involved in this and what your background is that allows you to do this well and thoughtfully.
Yeah, sure. So I have a economic education, but most of my life I work in the technology. Last 5 years, I'm researching DAOs and governance and participated in a bunch of those, including like Common Stack and a bit of token engineering commons. And I also have a position in the Trusted Seed, which is the community for regens and experts in that field. So I'm also not trying to close all the competencies. I'm stewarding this, so we would probably need some great economists to work together and technologists. But yeah, deep love of ecology, technology, so good to be here.
And Max, for folks that aren't as familiar with the documentation and didn't, come to Regenerative News Hour last time, hear you speak there. Can you share a little bit about, let's say it's funded, the goal is to raise $100,000, there's about 40,000 already on the table. We're going to be networking to get the rest of the funding going. But let's say we have the funding. What's the process going to look like for folks? And in the short term, while we wait for the kickstart, how and where do people engage? If they have their own ideas, should they go to your governance proposal and read things, or should they add their comments? How do you recommend we participate now, and sort of like where are we going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So we're starting slowly, also maybe because it's summer and we're like figuring out some stuff as well, and funding, setting up the clearance about that would help a lot. But we already have the forum topic where some folks engage and share their ideas. We had some like on-demand calls that I'm planning to have something like a weekly working group session at some point to sync on the updates and to discuss the progress. The desire of R&D and foundation was about having some good deliverable in around 3 months that we can take into development potentially. I'm hoping we can move with this pace, and also I'm planning the budget that we will get, which would be like probably way smaller, maybe like 100K, for this working group for a year, because we would probably need to build into stages from, first of all, auditing the current state of the system, because unfortunately, there's not a lot of economic analysis done to the model so far, like sales numbers and different like fund performance metrics and so on. So I plan to do that first, together with interviewing the key stakeholders, both inside and outside of the ecosystems. And then we would have some ideation and validation, and the fourth quarter will be probably implementation. So this is, again, something I just dropped in my head, but it will be described in this executive summary and agreed with the funders, first of all.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any more questions for Max? Anybody else? Alrighty, I will take that as a no. Thank you so much for sharing. And oh, okay. And Seb, did you want to say anything? Seb just commented in the chat that he's okay.
Saying hello. I think it's exciting that this working group is happening, and I'm excited to participate. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done with the Regen token, and yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. And yeah, I'll try to drop that working group announcement link in the chat in a moment. Oh, you already did, Max. Never mind. Okay, we're good. Next, Cosmwasm on Regen Ledger. Yeah, Jake?
Hey, I think it's me, sorry. Or Jake is still here.
Yeah, and if you refresh, there's another bullet on the slide.
Okay, yes, absolutely.
We were going to
Hey,
have
all,
Jake
what's up?
talk and then Giancarlo speak for a little bit.
Perfect. Okay, can everybody
Great.
see?
Can everybody hear me?
Mhm.
Hello?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Amazing. Yeah, so I'm working on a proposal to add permissioned Cosmwasm to Regen Ledger. And would love to talk with you all at a high level about what value this will enable. I noticed on this call, there were a bunch of people talking about building up a developer ecosystem around the Regen network, which I think is the right thing to be doing. So Cosmwasm will enable, will be another way that will allow for developers to build custom functionality on top of the Regen ledger. I think also there's a bunch of really cool apps that could come to Regen. So for example, DAO, I don't know if anyone's here has heard of DAO, but it's this really awesome DAO tooling with a great UI for launching and managing DAOs and other organizations. Could prove really useful tooling for Regen. In fact, a long time ago, Regen actually gave us a grant to work on DAO. So it would be wonderful to bring DAO to Regen and really help empower the communities there. Mesh security is another really interesting application that will be enabled by Cosmwasm, which I think could be very, very interesting to explore for Regen. Potentially even exploring crazy ideas of what if you could, use, eco credits to secure the interchain. That's just a throw-out idea. I'm not seriously proposing that, but I think that long story TLDR is permissioned Cosmwasm on Regen Ledger will, I think, add a lot of value. It'll be a new way for developers to easily extend the functionality of the chain. It'll allow Regen to more easily leverage existing applications, things like DAO, which can help projects with fundraising. It'll mean that you can take advantage of all the great NFT contracts and all the stuff that's currently built in Cosmwasm. And I think mesh security is going to be this also really other this other crucial and very interesting piece. But yeah, I kind of wanted, before I put the proposal on Commonwealth, I'm aiming to do that this week, but I wanted to get some thoughts and feedback from the community. Hopefully that was a good enough high level overview. Cosmwasm, for those who aren't aware, is a smart contracting framework. So this would be enabling smart contracts on Regen Ledger. This would be permissioned smart contracts though, so these contracts would have to be approved by governance before being uploaded to the chain, which I think is a better fit than permissionless Cosmwasm for something like Regen. But yeah, happy to answer any questions or provide additional thoughts and perspective. I don't want to take up too much time.
Hey, Jake, I have a question. This is Dave Fortson. Good to see you. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
Yeah.
So I guess two parts. Can you, or maybe Sarah, I know you've been tracking this closely, or Gregory or anyone else on the call, kind of imagine how this might activate, maybe some practical examples of things we could do with Cosmwasm right away. Obviously DAO I know is one, but stuff that is very, very much directly related to, credit origination or moving credits around the Cosmos or beyond ecosystems. So I'm curious just to help paint a picture if you have any thoughts there. And then the second part was just the how you think this might impact governance. To have a permissioned Cosmwasm product where does that mean, just so I understand, that when a proposed contract would need to come to the Regen community as a whole for approval, and again, I wouldn't expect it would be that busy, frankly, very on the earlier side. But is that accurate? Is it just come as what type of a governance proposal does that look like, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so you're completely right. That a team, for example, like the DAO team, would come to Regen and they would make an on-chain proposal to upload their contract. And this would be true for anything, and the community would vote. Is this a project? Are these contracts that we actually want on our chain? So hopefully that clears that up. I'm happy to answer more, but it's just a standard Cosmos 50K governance proposal to upload these contracts, and that would be done on like a per project basis. I highly recommend permissioned Cosmwasm. I think it's a great experience, and it means that all the applications on Regen Network have been vetted and that they're aligned with like the mission and like values of this community. In terms of like bridging to other ecosystems, yes, there's huge opportunity for that. So as you know, Polkadot has added support for IBC, at least with the composable parachain. That light client, which we're going live with on Juno really soon, is actually implemented in Cosmwasm. So if you wanted to issue bring Regen credits to the Polkadot ecosystem, Cosmwasm would definitely speed up the timeline to do so. And I know of a bunch of other cross ecosystem or cross chain solutions that are going to be Cosmwasm first before they land in the mainline SDK. So that Wasm like client for Polkadot is one example, but I think a very tangible one, right? Because the Polkadot ecosystem is still pretty large, and it would be great to be able to serve them with their eco credit needs. In terms of things people could do on day one, I mean, just even with DAO off the bat, projects could have a beautiful UI for managing their communities. I imagine something like the Cosmos Zero program could be run from DAOs on Regen Ledger, and using interchain accounts, because DAO now has support for interchain accounts. They could have accounts on each of the different chains they might serve. So for example, a DAO on Regen managing the Cosmos Zero program could have an account on Stargaze, an account on Osmosis, et cetera, et cetera. That's one use case. We have a bunch of, I think, tools that maybe communities in Regen might find useful. For example, minting NFT collections to raise funds. Maybe they mint NFTs of endangered species that are helping to be saved. So fundraise. We have a bunch of other fundraising tools that are in the work. I think that is an important thing to empower regenerative communities, is give them tools for organizing, governing themselves, raising funds. These are things that data can help provide today. And then I think the other use case that I'm pretty excited about is mesh security. But I think even in this call today, we've talked a lot about people wanting to be able to customize the flow of credits being issued, when those credits might be programmatically retired. I think the permission Cosmwasm allows developers to play with their great imaginations and come up with some potentially exciting new ideas. I don't know exactly what those are going to be off the top of my head, but they'll have the ability to create smart contracts that can implement particular flows that might be of interest to them. So for example, maybe a DAO wants to mint NFTs and their NFT trees, and you have to feed them carbon credits to grow the tree. Those carbon credits get locked in the NFT contract and potentially are retired as you feed the tree, and it grows and as a dynamic NFT. That's just kind of a silly example, but I do think that permission Cosmwasm can bring some really useful tools to the chain. It will speed up connections to other ecosystems, and then I think really just give developers the tools to play around with what's possible with these eco credits, and potentially coming up with some novel ideas, maybe even really silly ones like NFT trees, right? But I don't think they're that silly, actually. I think those are really cool ideas, and it'd be great to unlock those for the community. And permissions, I think, gives the right amount of control. You don't want people just uploading any random contract to the chain, right? You want to make sure that like the contracts as well as the teams are like sort of vetted and making sure that they're like aligned with like this community and its values. I hope that is not too long-winded of an answer, but I hope I answered your question.
I think that's
Hey,
beautiful.
can folks hear me? That was great.
Go ahead, Gregory.
Jake. Can you guys hear me? Okay, awesome. So I just wanted to add a couple thoughts, kind of concrete examples of why I'm really excited about permissioned Cosmwasm. So folks who've been around a little while may remember back in the day, we built, in a hackathon, we built this idea that was called the redowment. And generally speaking, and Jake was alluding to all of this, there's kind of this domain which is really hard for our current eco credit module to hit, which has to do with dynamic contracts related to ecological states. Meaning, hey, there's this forest, and maybe someone is receiving universal basic income or continuous payment as long as it's stewarded, but it's not necessarily like a carbon market or even a biodiversity market. The unitization is very hard, and we're working on that, and it's great, and it's important to have that kind of like spot eco commodities, but there's this entire domain of natural asset corporations, natural asset DAOs, stewardship cooperative commons, in which the application of a group of people having agreements about ecological health and being able to make remittances and payments or create collectibles and issue collectibles to do fundraising, all of those different cool things. You know, it's a little bit harder and it's a little bit clunky the way that we've structured our sort of spot market for eco credits, and they can interact beautifully. And so I think being linked to a development ecosystem that has, you know, a growing set of libraries and tools that are sort of generic coordination tools and generic NFT tools gets us really far for members of our community to be exploring that edge that's sort of like eco credit adjacent, but ecological regeneration centered. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. Like, and there really is this huge library of Cosmwasm smart contracts, and I think it's really good bang for the buck, right? Like, it's you know, there's limited resources, and Regen needs to be focused on its very, very important and urgently needed mission. And so being able to leverage all these coordination mechanisms, all these tools, and being able to leverage the larger Cosmwasm community ultimately means like just like a much higher pace of like shipping and experimentation, which we really badly need. So yeah.
So we only have 3 minutes left in this call, and I want to hold space for Giancarlo to speak. Jake, we want to really thank you for coming. There's a ton of comments in the chat that you can't see because you're on your phone, Jake. So I think I'm going to pressure you into doing a news hour with us so that people can ask you the questions that they have live. But thank you for coming. Was someone just speaking?
Sure, and I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do another space once we I'll put up the proposal hopefully this week, and then we can have a longer conversation around it.
Absolutely.
As just a segue into Giancarlo, I'd like to just get one like missing maybe piece of this conversation from Jake, which is to what extent in your proposal are you coming with the desire and the plan to like kind of lead implementation of this?
I think that's a possibility. It's really not very hard to implement Cosmwasm on a chain. There's over 30 chains that have done so already. So it's probably like, you know, like 3 hours of work for someone who knows what they're doing. Obviously I don't manage
I was just so you're aware of where Regen stands right now. We're just still on Cosmos SDK 046, which I don't think Cosmwasm supports. And so like implementation of this is going to require an upgrade to 047, which currently like the R&D team hasn't like put on our roadmap, or we don't know when that's going to happen. So I do think it's important in the proposal just to be thinking about that part of it too, like given where Regen Ledger is today, like are you and your team
there are 46 branches of Cosmwasm that are in use elsewhere in the Cosmos ecosystem. So, and we'd be happy to advise for sure, and maybe even contribute a pull request. Sure.
Cool. Just want to make sure that's part of the thought process. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to continue. Hey guys, I'm Giancarlo, formerly from the SDK team, but to continue the conversation on this, essentially, I also believe Cosmwasm could help a lot also the spirit of keeping, promoting decentralization within Regen and allowing the community to be able to have more flexibility, developing more things. Like Ecotoken, I think will greatly benefit from this. And what I wanted to talk about is more so a small call to action or to see who is interested, because I want us to organize together kind of like a community of developers who are willing and want to participate in taking a little bit of the responsibility or in sharing it with Regen R&D, essentially maintenance and continuous upgrades and research for new features. For example, we could also help with upgrading the SDK to 4.7 so it works better with Cosmwasm, or following Jake's advice if they don't have the time. But essentially, what I wanted to ask is if anybody within the community is interested in participating as contributors to Regen from a developer perspective, to keep advancing and growing Regen in a more decentralized manner, so we have considerably more actors within this space, if that makes sense. And I guess I can share my information if anybody's interested, on chat right now or later on the Discord.
Yeah, definitely. Let's, Giancarlo, I'll connect with you after this and figure out where the best place to put a space for people to connect. Maybe we can create a channel or something on Discord. Yeah, let's do that. Does anybody have any questions for Giancarlo? We're getting there on time. Thank you so much, everybody.
To have a independent, the idea of an independent developer DAO or council that's doing contributions and engaging with core ledger development. I'm just super excited. So Giancarlo, thanks for that offer and idea, and Jake, thanks for sort of coming in with energy around Cosmwasm. Just really appreciative of, this needs to be and is a community project, and more leadership getting distributed is really exciting to me as one of the, I guess, OGs. So thanks everybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for attending. That's the end of our call, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for Registry Foundation and Science and Foundation. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Right, buddy. Keep rocking.